mean, outside of oil and gas, which you have a really diversified production base, when you look at some of the industries that Bob and I have been talking about, you consolidated down from 10 players to 2 to 5. These guys are all rational people. If demand takes a hit, they'll take a plant offline. They'll normalize pricing because they like making money. And I think people don't realize how much consolidation has happened during this really 10-year bear market in the old economy. I'm actually surprised regulators let a lot of this consolidation happen. But at the time, no one really cared because these businesses weren't very profitable and they needed that consolidation.
In addition to the consolidated position, the ability to shut down plants is also the balance sheets of these companies. And so nobody's heavily levered. Nobody has to refinance their debt. Nobody has to make payments. So therefore, they have the capability to say, I'll just produce a little bit less, and I'll sell a little bit less, and I'll make a little bit less. So that's a financial decision that they can make within their financial constraints. And that's different than maybe existed in the past. In terms of demand destruction on the oil and gas side, I'm kind of the opinion, you're not going to eat your home. You're not going to air condition your home. You're not going to, I think price is a difficult way to destroy demand for oil and gas. In 1997-98, the Asia financial crisis, oil consumption in China grew throughout the Asia financial crisis. Coca-Cola consumption was down 30% because you didn't have to drink a Coca-Cola, but you used that oil. And so therefore, oil and gas are things that are kind of fundamental to your life, that cutting that back because the price is too high, I just don't see a lot of risk that's part of the equation, one of the things you'd be concerned about.
I mean, if you start seeing them start drilling tons of wells, you could watch the Baker Hughes number. We're 2 years into this energy cycle and they're adding 1 rig, 2 rigs. Like, no one's adding capacity. You see them all of a sudden announce 5 OSB plants. You see them start building more petrochemical. I don't see these announcements anywhere. No one's adding supply. They're doing buybacks and they're consolidating the industry still.
And then just the last thing on that. So even once they announce those things, right, there's a huge lead time between the announcement and then the delivery of that capacity. And then that capacity has to be utilized for some amount of time to go from an undersupply situation to an adequate supply situation to eventually an oversupply situation. So I think there's so much PTSD, so much negativity. And if you've been bearish on any of these things for 7 out of the last 8 years, or really 6 out of the last 8 years, 2016, second half was pretty good, you've been right. And so if you are right for 6.5 out of the last 8 years, it's really hard to change your mind. And it takes losing a lot of money to change your mind. And so there's really, I think we're seeing that with tech and with some of these other sectors. And so I think it's something to keep in mind, even if these numbers, which aren't showing up, but even if there were those announcements, it would still be, you just start your clock there, and it might be 2 to 7 years from those announcements to when you might be adequately to oversupplied for those commodities.
Imagine you have a petrochemical plant and you want to go to your board of directors and say, we're not going to do buybacks and dividends. We're going to spend $1 billion on this piece of equipment, and we're just coming out of this bear market. And just trust me on this. I think we should do this. The board's going to laugh at you. You're going to get fired. Like, just pay the dividends and shut up. And I just don't see it happening yet. You need this cycle to go longer for people to have the confidence, because the last guy who built a plant got fired because he built a plant into a down cycle. No one wants to be the guy who gets fired because 5 years later your plant comes online, there's no demand for it.